Mark just reaches down and underhooks him like this under the shoulders there. And you know how big Brock's shoulders are. And lifted Brock right up.
Would you say that Brock Lesnar is the toughest and the strongest wrestler in the history of the business, or was there someone else?
Well, to say in the history of the business, you know, there were some strong guys come on. I mean, you know, we had some of the, Mark Henry's probably the strongest guy, if you want to know the truth. I mean, and, you know, Mark had never wrestled a day in his life, but, you know, they're two very competitive guys, and they're at training camp together. And, you know, Mark is one of these kids, you know, he's a Texas kid, so he got a lot of confidence in himself. And Brock, of course, is a national champion wrestler. He got a lot of confidence in himself, needless to say. So there was always that, they were always eyeballing each other. You know, you've been around guys, I mean, even in your business, you know, you're one of the top guys in your business. You go to some of these places, people are eyeballing you, you know, trying to figure out what makes you tick and what makes you so damn good. Well, they were doing the same thing with each other, Mark and Brock, you know. Finally, one day, they'd had enough of looking at each other. They had to feel each other out. Wow. And tell a story, and Mark told the story right in front of Brock, you know, and so it's got it, and Brock didn't deny it, but Brock supposedly shot in on Mark Henry, got real deep in for a double leg takedown, and Mark just reaches down and underhooks him like this under the shoulders there. And you know how big Brock's shoulders are, and lifted Brock right up. That never happened in Brock's life. Somebody more powerful than him manhandled him like that. So they got that mutual respect for each other real quick after they tied up one time. And then after that, they kind of knew each other was serious, and they didn't mess around too much. But and Mark would always, I know I can take him, and Brock, I could give Brisco, I'm a wrestler, I could take him in a minute. You know? So it was always that competition. So the strongest has to be Mark Henry, but Brock's right there with him with that natural strength. Mark is so big and so bulky. I mean, the guy, you go up and you just grab Mark's wrist, and it scares the hell out of you because you can just feel the power in it. And this guy could wipe me out with just a swat of his hand, and he could, you know. But I got so much respect for both of those guys. But Mark is probably a little bit stronger weight-wise, lifting weights, but that when you go in and compete, it's not so much how much you can push, it's how much you can pull and push and manipulate the body. And being a wrestler, that's where Brock had it over guys like Mark Henry and the other strong guys, because he knew the body movement from being a wrestler from the time he was 8 years old to 22 years old. He knew once you learn that wrestling, once you learn the body movement and how the body functions and the direction and just the physiology of the body, then you got it made. And Brock had all those ingredients from the years from wrestling. So, you know, he wrestling-wise, he could take Mark, but I don't think he could on a bench press.
And finally, you have heard so many stories from Mr. Gerald Brisco. You can hear a million more stories on his podcast. So could you tell our listeners and all our viewers how they can log in and view your podcast?
Well, thank you very much. It's JBL and I, John Bradshaw, Layfield and I, hooked up, you know, during the pandemic because, you know, we're just basically to put a smile on our faces, just started telling those stories to each other, you know, and a friend of ours that's a Japanese amateur national champion that we're both a mutual friend, one of the Wall Street guys up in New York that I've become friends with. And so he said, why don't you guys do a podcast together? Because we kind of, JBL and I kind of just bullshit on a little group text that we have, and, you know, all the guys on the group text, you got to, do it. So Yoshi Nakamura is the one responsible for that. So if you hate us, look up Yoshi Nakamura and take it out on him either. But be careful, he's a shooter and a half. But yeah, we tell a story. We just started doing it, you know, just out of boredom, and then it just kind of turned into something. People started enjoying it, and it started growing a little bit. And we just kept doing it, and then the great thing about we get to reunite with some of our old friends, like Stan Hatch and like Dutch Mantell was recently on. But we get to reunite with them and relive some of those old glory days that we think are glory days in the sport. And some of the greatest stories in the history of the business are told by guys who not heard about them, but guys who were either involved in them or created the story by being the catalyst of the story. So we were bringing those original storytellers in, and just sharing the stories that are famous in our business, or at least famous in the locker room of our business. And we're enjoying doing it. And like I said, with the chance to reunite with some of our old buddies, we're having a ball doing it. And I think people can see that we're enjoying each other and we're enjoying working with the guests that we have on. And it's more like a conversation than it is a Q&A for us anyway. And I hope it is for the people. But yeah, check it out. Anywhere you get your podcast, Stories with Brisco and Bradshaw, YouTube, just what is it? You got to hit that little thumbs up thing and say you like the thing. Even if you don't live one time, and hit that thumbs up. Give us a thumbs up. I think you'll enjoy the stories, though. If you don't, leave a comment, but hit that thumbs up for us. Thank you.
And if you enjoyed all of the stories on this podcast, I'm sure you'll enjoy all of the stories on that podcast. I am a fan. We at Sportskeeda, we cover many stories from the podcast every single week. So thank you, Jerry Brisco, for agreeing to be on our podcast. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your knowledge. Thank you for your insights. And we hope to have you back again at some point.
Anytime you want, I'll make time for you anytime. This has been fun. I hope it's enjoyable to all your fans out there.